What's up, everybody? My name is Jake Osmond. This is Jake Osmond Ranks Reviews. Today, I am going ahead and ranking my super list. As you know, the last few videos that I've done movie rankings, I've done them with a few friends and everything like that. Did one by myself. And as we've gone through our rankings, what I've been doing is keeping a list of matches that we had. Now, the first week with Tristan, if you remember, we did not have a match. But what we did was Tristan chose from a list and I chose from a list, and we put those on a list. I think it was Die Hard and Armageddon. Okay, so over the next few weeks or next few times that I would interview people, as we came to a match, I would add that to the list. Now, there were two movies that we ended up having matches multiple times, which means that it was already on the list, and so I put an asterisk by them. All right, and those two movies were Armageddon and The Bourne Identity. Okay, now here's the thing: when because of that, this list that I made that a consideration. I decided that if enough people that I had interviewed, which was myself and four of the people, if enough of us had agreed that those two movies belonged on that list, then I felt like they needed to be in the top 10. Didn't mean they had to be, number one or anything like that, but I wanted to make sure they at least got in the top 10. So in going through my ranking, I made that a consideration. Now, I've talked to the other guys I interviewed. They're going to be sending me their list. They may end up putting them in the comments. They've been on vacation, busy this week, so it's been kind of hard to get in touch with everybody. But hopefully, I'll get a list back from them, or you can at least see it in the comments. I was hoping I could get it and then like maybe compare them in the video, but have not been able to hear from anybody. I actually talked to Tristan yesterday, but he said it's really hard, and I agree, it is really hard. This morning when I was doing it, took me a little bit to really make my ranking, because again, we're not, and I keep saying this because I do want to do a video series on the greatest movies of all time. I'm not ranking these based on what's the better film. I'm ranking these on what movie would I personally rather watch, or what would I rather see. So that doesn't mean that I'm saying that the number one movie on this list is the best movie on this list. There are probably, I would acknowledge, movies that are of higher quality are better than what ended up being my number one on this list. And I think I even may have said that when I compiled my other list. And so I've tried to say that on every video, because I would like to try to tackle that, to just see what are the greatest movies of all time. But that's not what we're doing today. So today, what I'm going to do is take that super list and try to break it down the best I can of the ones that I think are the top 13 that I would like to watch. And so, and like I said, if I made this list, in a week, it may look a little different. It may change based on when I've seen these movies, because for some of these it's been a minute, and so I don't remember them as well. For some of them, it's just that they didn't hold the same I don't know, sentimentality or place in my heart that others did. And I know that for some people these movies mean a lot, and for others, they don't. So I kind of took that into consideration too. So if it didn't have a big deep connection with me, it didn't get as far up on the list. And obviously, my top four are not going to surprise anybody, because they're pretty much were on my list, because those are my favorite movies. So and another thing, before I start naming these, I like all of these movies. There's not a single movie that we talked about, I don't think. There were a couple maybe that I hadn't seen, but there were none that I was just like, that's really not my thing. We all kind of, and we're all similar age, and we're all, grew up in the same area, and kind of, and that's one thing that's interesting is that if I asked some older people what their favorite movies were, it would probably be a little different. Maybe some baby boomers would have a different list. If I asked some kids, or some, even like, I don't know, 20 to 25-year-olds, 18 to 25-year-olds, they would have a different list. So that's what makes this interesting too. And I'm interested in psychology and all that kind of stuff. So what does it say about us that these are our favorite movies? Or does it say anything about us? Is it just one of those things that maybe we like an actor, or maybe we like, action, or maybe we like drama? So it's interesting to look at all those things and just kind of see, why people like what they like. And, kind of gives you a little insight into the person, or does it? Maybe it doesn't say anything. So anyway, but yeah, just a disclaimer that none of these are movies. Just because it's number 13, 12, or 11 does not mean that I don't like that movie. It just means that for me, there were just other movies that I would rather watch more. And also, Bourne and Armageddon might be on a different spot, but I felt like I definitely had to have them in the top 10 because of the number of people who put them. It was just kind of like, I'm going to go and make sure I put those in the top 10. Just because I felt like that was important. And when I really did put it down, I do think that it's probably pretty close to where I put them anyway. Maybe a bit different, but pretty close. So anyway, like I said, on a different day, maybe a different list, but let's go ahead and get started. So number 13 for me was Ocean's 11. And if you remember me talking about this in the earlier videos, I love this movie. Again, nothing against this movie, but it doesn't have the same connection that some of the other movies on the list do. I did see it twice. I think I saw it in the theater, and then I did watch it again on like HBO or something. And then I've watched it when it's on TV a few times. But it's not one that I watch yearly or anything like that. But it is a very good movie. And so other than it's just not one that I love as much as some of the other ones, it ended up being number 13. Number 12 is Inception. Again, I think it's a fantastic movie. But just again didn't have the same connection. Now I will say that I put it above Ocean's 11 just because for me it's kind of like, and you're going to kind of see a top here, well maybe a little bit, that there's certain types of movies that I enjoy watching for fun over other types of movies. And so Inception, I liked it. I liked the premise of it. It was easy to follow, but it was deep ideas, and that's something that Christopher Nolan does a great job at. And I do love Christopher Nolan as a director, and this is probably one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies, to be honest. So I do like it, but it came in at number 12. Number 11 was Transformers. Now, again, a movie I saw in the theater. I was so excited about it because I'm an 80s kid. So growing up playing with the toys, and if you remember those first Transformers, they were hard to put together. I mean, I remember to, put to their shape and stuff like that and then put them back. So I have an affinity for that movie, but there again, the movies ahead of it, I felt like were a little bit better. Going back and watching it with just recency bias, there is some things in it that's a little cheesy. The special effects do hold up, though. I do want to say that. I think the special effects are great. The acting is good. Shia LaBeouf is very good. He's a likable actor. He did a good job. Megan Fox was great in it. All of the voice cast. I think it's Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. He's great, and that's one thing that was really hit the nostalgia bug. Is you hear these voices that were in the cartoon, and that's what was cool that they brought those guys back. And again, when I'm going through the list, would I rather watch this or this? This is where it landed. Again, a great movie. This is one that I'll watch. But when it's on TV, I've seen it a few times. Again, not one that I watch yearly, but I'll watch it. If it's on, I'll finish it or whatever. So, but yeah, this one's a good one. Number 11 was Transformers. All right, number 10, and now I'm getting into the top 10. So these are the ones that for me personally, all of these are just, they hold a special place in my heart. They're great. Some more than others, but these are all really good. So number 10 was Avengers Endgame. I do know there are people who like Endgame better than Infinity War, but for me, I felt like, especially with the time travel element, and I do think that they did it well. I'm not dissing the movie, but I think there are other movies that do time travel better. But I do love this movie, and I love the way that it brought everything together. This movie was like you took your toy box and dumped it out and just started playing. I mean, that's what, especially the last hour of that movie is what that is. And so the final battle is just amazing. It's so much fun. And I do think that they brought it to a satisfying conclusion. It's going to be interesting to see where they take it when we get to Doomsday. But I felt like they did a great job wrapping that series up. So it is in my top 10 as far as the super list goes. So I do enjoy Endgame. Really thought it was great. and a great way to send off the characters. Very emotional, especially the last 30 minutes or so. So a great movie. So nothing against it, just ended up that's where it landed. All right, number 9, Bourne Identity. And again, this one, if you ask me on 2-3 different days, this one might have moved up or down. But I did feel like it at least needed to be in the top 10 because so many people that I interviewed really like it. So and this one is another one that it's not one that I probably put on yearly or anything like that. Like which Endgame I'll admit I do try to go back and watch the Marvel movies, especially when new movies come out. I'll try to go back and catch up. I might not watch all of them, but I'll try to watch all the Avengers-centric movies or whatever. And I have gone back and gone through the deep dive into all the MCU movies. So I try to do that at least once a year. Bourne Identity, I don't do that, but I did put it a little bit ahead of Endgame just because I felt like with what Bourne Identity does so well with the story and the acting and everything, I just felt it was just and the original idea of it. It's not an IP or anything like that, so I don't know. I just felt like would I rather, and this may change on a given day, but I would probably rather watch Bourne Identity than Avengers Endgame together. Now, if I watched Infinity War, I'm ready to watch Endgame. So it just depends on the day. And again, this list could look a little different, but for me, it just landed right there today when I was going through my list. So Bourne Identity number 9. The fight scenes and the action in that is just unparalleled. You can't beat it, and it's a great story. Acting's really good. I'm sorry. My goodness, Jason Bourne, the guy who plays Jason Bourne, really good. And so I can see his face, but his name's leaving me, so a little embarrassing. But it's such a good movie. All the acting and stuff is great in it too. So I'll think of it in a little bit. All right. So number 8, Avengers: Infinity War. Now, as far as Marvel movies go, this is pretty high on my list. I felt like this was probably one of the best compilation or movies that I'd seen that from a franchise that's trying to kind of come together and wrap everything up. And they're getting their butts kicked the whole time. And that's what's kind of crazy about it is it's not a movie that's like totally feel good, or it's not supposed to be a feel good movie, but it's got funny parts in it. It's it's got really tragic stuff in it. It's just so good, and it's just got such a good story, and the villain is so compelling to me. Thanos is a great villain, and I thought that Josh Brolin did a great job in that, and so yeah, I had to put it right here at this spot. And again, on a different day, would it be lower? It might, end up lower or higher, however you want to look at it, lower or higher on my list. But I felt like 8 was a good spot for it right there. But Robert Downey Jr. is great in it. All the Avengers, coming together and to fight Thanos is really good. So yeah, I think it was a good movie. All right, number 7, The Green Mile. I remember seeing this in the theater, and I know I've talked about The Green Mile with Tristan and Matt. One of those movies that really hits you, in the gut at certain scenes. It's just one of those really good movies. And kind of right here, right in the sort of in the middle of our list of 13 here. I do like the movie a lot. There are things in it that get a little bit hard to watch sometimes when you talk about some of the subject matter in there. It gets kind of tough. But I think that the execution of it in the movie is so good that it kind of helps ease that a little bit. So I do really like that movie. But for me, it was just sort of in that middle range, and it's a lot. It's very similar. Stephen King, same director, I think, and a lot of the same acting group of actors that were in Shawshank or in The Green Mile. And so he kind of reminded me of Frank Capra because of how Frank Capra puts a lot of the same people in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington are in It's a Wonderful Life and other movies that he does. You kind of start seeing some of the same faces. That's how these two movies were, and so that's interesting to me too, that they kind of kept some of the same guys around, and some of them don't have as big a part in either movie, but you still notice those little things. And so, but to me, it just not quite as good as Shawshank, but still really, really good. And so I do enjoy it. And also, and we talked about some of the biblical aspects of it and some of the comparisons you can make to John Coffey being a Christ figure and all that stuff. And so I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that, but it is a really good movie. Really enjoyed it. So an enjoyable movie that tackles kind of a tough subject is always interesting. And so so that's good. And Michael Clarke Duncan's great. Tom Hanks is excellent. He's one that you can watch in anything. So so Green Mile just kind of ended up right there in the middle. All right, so number 6 is Armageddon. Now, like I mentioned earlier, another one that I remember, this was nostalgic for me because it was one of those first movies I drove to, if not the first movie that I drove to the theater to see. Bruce Willis, who's great. He is really, really good in anything. And so I put this one here. Again, I really felt like it needed to be in the top 10 based on other people, multiple people picking it. And so it had that asterisk beside it. So I wanted to give it respect. I do think it would probably have landed about where it is, though, kind of like Bourne. I think it would have been in my top 10 anyway. Would it have been on the same spot? I don't know. Like I said, a different day I might move this up or down. This is another one that, you're kind of talking about the end of the world, so it can be a downer, but then at the same time, they do it and it's so much fun. And there's so many familiar faces in it. Again, Michael Clarke Duncan's in there. You got a lot of really familiar faces and actors that are all in here. Steve Buscemi is great in it. There's so many people in here that are in there, and so I think it's a good one. So it ended up again kind of in that mid range, but it's one that if it's on, I'm probably gonna finish it up because it's just so good. It's so much fun. The group of guys that they put together to go to the asteroid, that was great. So and the soundtrack was really, really good, and really they wore that song out. I mean it was don't want to miss a thing, but and you didn't if you listen to the radio because it came on all the time. But a good song, it was really good. So good movie, and it's one of those summer blockbuster. And for a while there, you had Independence Day and Armageddon, and you had the kind of the apocalypse movies that kind of came out, where it was like, this is the end of the world, and what are we going to do, kind of thing. And so that kind of merged into superhero movies, and they kind of had their own, like, oh no, end of the world kind of thing. So that this one kind of is what kind of continued from Independence Day, that kind of trend of what do we do, world-ending event, whether it's aliens or an asteroid or whatever. So that's one of those first ones, but really good. Some of the effects, if you watch it, I'm curious. I haven't watched it in a while. They may not hold up, but some of those practical effects that they used, I think, still really effectively. So so again, good movie, good summer movie. That was great. All right, so now we're getting into my top 5. Again, I don't think this is going to surprise anybody. If you've watched any of my other videos, these are probably going to be familiar, especially the top 4. Now, my number 5 was not on my original list, but this is one that, boy, when he mentioned it, Tristan mentioned it, I think. Gosh, I love this movie. So my number 5 is Die Hard. Again, I know I've really gone deep into a lot of these in other videos, so I'll try not to spend too much time on it. But the debate about whether it's a Christmas movie, Bruce Willis is barefoot and he's walked on glass and he's got to beat these guys. He's been wore down, and it's just he's beat up. He's a regular guy doing amazing things or trying to do the best he can to save as many people as he can. While taking out these terrorists, and he's marking out off their names. He does all this stuff. He uses his head. He's got Reginald Bell Johnson is kind of his wingman on the walkie-talkie. He's kind of helping him walk through things. It is such a good movie, and what they did with not a lot of really big. This was before the CGI explosion, so there's a lot of really good practical effects, a lot of explosions. a lot of things that work really well. I think there was some green screen maybe, and some of the matte paintings. I've seen some behind the scenes of how they did some of those. Just a great movie, just really well done. And so Die Hard ended up at number 5. Okay, number 4, and again, not going to surprise anybody on these final 4. Number 4 for me was Tombstone. This is one that I can watch it when it comes on anytime. Val Kilmer is so good in it, and it's such a quotable movie. I'm your Huckleberry or whatever you want to say. I mean, it's just there's so many good things in it. And again, another one where there's a lot of familiar faces. This is one that it revitalized the Western a little bit, and I think a lot of people were hoping that especially some of the older baby boomer guys, people my dad's age and stuff, really liked this movie. And I think they were kind of hoping this would kind of bring back the Western, and I think it tried a little bit. And so, every once in a while you'll get a good one. Westerns are tough. And I think that, again, 1969, in 1968, we had, the Stanley Kubrick movie that came out. And so I think that your interest went from the Old West to 2001: A Space Odyssey. It went from the Old West to more sci-fi space type movies, and so that there really was, Toy Story tells it perfectly. I think it just shows that the mindset of kids it went from the frontier of the West to like Star Trek, Final Frontier. I mean, kids were just more interested in space and science fiction, and so the Western just kind of fell out of style. It was something your dad or your granddad liked, and so this kind of tried to bring that back. And I really, it kind of makes me sad that sometimes that we don't see as many, but the ones that do come out, it does make you appreciate the good ones. And so this was one of the good ones. It was so good. But well acted, just and again, based on a true story, but they take the history and kind of make it fun and interesting. And so maybe it didn't happen exactly like they say, but I think they tried to recreate the OK Corral scene as much as they could. But this is such a fun movie, and so I really like this one. So Kurt Russell is great in that as well. Okay, so number 3, Saving Private Ryan, and again, this is a tough movie, especially that first 20 minutes, but I think it's so well done. And Spielberg is one of those. He's probably my favorite, and I mean, gosh, I'm not saying anything that other people don't say. You hear his name with Christopher Nolan and with other guys. Spielberg is my favorite director. I mean, he really is. I like him. I like Robert Zemeckis. I like Christopher Nolan. And if you go way back, I like Alfred Hitchcock. So he's going to be, if not already, there's going to be that list of the greatest directors, and Steven Spielberg is going to be on there. I mean, he's so amazing, and old school. You got Howard Hawks and John Ford and those guys, but Spielberg just he took what was great about all those older guys and he just brought it into the 20th century and or mid 20th century. I'm sorry, mid 20th century into the 21st century, and used special effects and camera shots and things like that. And he did it in such a way that it was so good, and moving, and I think it did a good job of honoring the troops. He's big on honoring the veterans, and Tom Hanks as well. And so I think they did a really, really solid job on this movie. I have heard some criticism of it, just like anything, but I do think that it was very well done, in my opinion. And so and that first 20 minutes, I don't know that it's been matched as far as a battle scene. I think that's it was amazing. Okay, number 2 was The Shawshank Redemption, and again, I this is not going to surprise anybody that it's up here on my list as far as number 2. So love this movie. Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman, you can't beat it. It's so good, and I just love this movie. The story is simple, but the way that they tell it is so compelling, and it's just like you almost kind of like how Castaway with Tom Hanks and how he was on this island. Well, this is just a group of guys in prison, and it seems like it would be these just mundane everyday life of a prisoner, but they do it in a way that's super compelling and really interesting, and they ramp up the drama, and you really rooting for this guy, to be able to clear his name and everything, and just the way that it works out, and the way that he is uses his wits and his smarts to turn the screws on the warden and everything at the end. It's such a good movie, and and you feel good at the end. It's like, oh yeah, great, everything worked out the way it's supposed to. And I've heard criticism on this movie and Green Mile too, that prison's full of these wonderful people, and I get it, but it is such a good movie, and it really does a good job at storytelling. Stephen King, one of the great storytellers of all time, and so this was number 2. All right, and again, to no one's surprise, my number 1 movie is Back to the Future. I've talked about how if this movie, from the time as far back as I can remember, I remember being 7, 8 when Back to the Future 2 came out, and then Back to the Future 3 came out, and we didn't go to the movies to see them, but I made sure that I asked my mom early, that the week I knew it was going to be out, I started seeing the poster at the video store and wanting to be one of the first people to get to rent it, because if you didn't get to that video store early, you were going to have to wait, at least a week or two before you could get it, because so many people just cleared those things out. The new releases got gone pretty quick, and so I was super pumped about 2 and 3, and so I remember going back and watching the first one, and even as a kid, I remember there was something special about that first one. It was so good. It was so well done, and I've talked about the fact that Robert Zemeckis is one of my favorite directors. Bob Gale, and Bob, it was the two Bobs. Well, Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, and then there was another guy that was a writer too, and his name's leaving me. But I do think that they still teach that script in film school. That's such a tight script, and there's nothing wasted. There's no scene wasted. Even things in the background, like the clock tower, her little flyer that he gets, and just there's so many things in there that tie in to that movie. Little lines that they say, Uncle Joey's a jailbird, and all these things that come back. You never even see Uncle Joey, but the fact that she's drinking a little bit at the beginning, and that it kind of doesn't ever say that she's an alcoholic. But when you go back and listen to some of the commentary and watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, they reference that, yeah, they've got some problems. They've got some issues. Now, does the science work out? I think we see an Endgame that they talk about how this isn't really how time travel would work, but who cares? It's such a good movie. It's so much fun, and Michael J. Fox, he was one of those actors too. He was so much fun to watch. Really sad what happened to him with his Parkinson's diagnosis and everything. I think maybe he's doing better. I haven't seen him in a while on anything, but Matt Damon was Jason Bourne. Matt Damon's great. Sorry, his name hit me too. So I wanted to say his name real quick. I knew it would come to me later. All right, so Back to the Future is my number 1. So just going back and reading through these again, and look, if you've not seen any of these movies, go back and watch them. Right now we live in a wonderful time if you like movies, because you've got at your fingertips. You can go to library apps. You can go to Disney Plus, Netflix, or HBO Max, or there's so many apps now that you can watch a lot of these movies on. But reading through the list, number 13, Ocean's 11, number 12, Inception, number 11, Transformers, number 10, Endgame, number 9, Bourne Identity, number 8, Infinity War, number 7, The Green Mile, number 6, Armageddon, number 5, Die Hard, number 4, Tombstone, number 3, Saving Private Ryan, number 2, Shawshank Redemption, and number 1 for me was Back to the Future. All right, please like this video, subscribe, and hey, leave me a comment if you have a top 10 favorite movies. If you think I should have put one on the super list, let me know if that's something. If there's one I missed, or you think we missed one in any of the other lists, that you think we need to do. Hopefully, my buddies, I think they may put it in the comments. I'll try to get their list as well. I was interested to see if anybody matched up. I don't think we will. I think there's going to be. Now, some there may be a couple guys that have the same number 1 or the same number 13, but I think there's going to be a whole lot of difference. in the middle. But these are my top 13. These lists are hard, and so it's tough to kind of make those lists, especially when you really like these movies. But a fun thing to do if you ever get bored or whatever. So again, like the video, subscribe, leave me a comment. I will be doing another set of videos about, and I'm going to try to tackle what are, and I'm going to look at a lot of lists. I'm going to try to watch a lot of movies, but what are the top 10 greatest films of all time? I'm going to try to look at that. That'll be next time. So again, like this video, subscribe. Thanks so much. Have a good day.